Hello, my dear friends. How are you doing? Hope you are having an amazing day and not having to deal with drama. Ready for new stories I have for you today? Let's go to the first one. And don't forget to listen to the end of the story, guys, to hear my insights. Enjoy the stories, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, don't forget to leave a comment. I, 36 female, am dealing with a situation so absurd and infuriating that I still can't quite believe it's happening. Years ago, my ex-husband, Greg, 38 male, ended our marriage because I couldn't get pregnant. I've since rebuilt my life, remarried, and had 2 beautiful children. But now, out of nowhere, Greg is suing me to demand DNA tests for my kids, and it's dragging up all the pain I thought I'd left behind. Greg and I were married for 5 years. When we first met, he was ambitious, charming, and had a clear vision for the future. He loved to talk about the life he wanted, a big family, a home filled with laughter, and a marriage that stood the test of time. I thought we were on the same page. I admired his drive and passion, and believed we could create something beautiful together. The first year of our marriage was everything I'd hoped for. We traveled, hosted dinners with friends, and made plans for the family we both wanted. When we decided to start trying for a baby, I was thrilled, assuming it would happen quickly. But month after month passed with no results. At first, Greg was patient. We reassured each other that it would happen eventually. But as time went on, the tension began to grow. We visited doctors and underwent tests, and while there were no definitive answers, the results pointed to unexplained infertility. I was devastated. I wanted children as much as Greg did, and the idea that I might not be able to give him that broke my heart. I threw myself into research, looking at every possible solution: IVF, surrogacy, adoption. But Greg wasn't supportive. He dismissed adoption outright, saying, "I want kids of my own, not someone else's." As for IVF, he scoffed at the expense, saying, "I'm not throwing money at something that's not guaranteed to work." Over time, Greg's attitude shifted from frustration to resentment. He became cold and distant, blaming me for our struggles, even though the doctors couldn't say definitively that it was my issue. He'd make comments like, "What's the point of all of this if we can't even have a family?" And "Maybe I made a mistake getting married so soon." The final straw came during an argument where he told me, "You're broken. I want a wife who can give me children." Those words shattered me. A month later, Greg filed for divorce. Greg was unrelenting, making me feel like I was the sole reason our marriage failed. I was left questioning my worth, convinced that I'd never be good enough for anyone. After the divorce, my friends refused to let me wallow. One night, they dragged me out for drinks, insisting that I needed a distraction. I wasn't in the mood, but I went along with it. That night changed everything. At the bar, I met Daniel. He was warm, funny, and had this unassuming kindness about him. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was just himself. We started talking, and I found myself laughing in a way I hadn't in years. For the first time since the divorce, I felt like I wasn't defined by what I'd lost. One thing led to another, and I ended up going home with Daniel that night. It was impulsive and completely out of character for me, but in that moment, I needed to feel alive again. A few weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I was in shock. After years of being told it might not happen for me, here I was, staring at a positive pregnancy test. I was terrified, but also excited. When I told Daniel, he was surprised but immediately supportive. He said, "Whatever you want to do, I'm here." As the pregnancy progressed, Daniel and I grew closer. He wasn't just supportive, he was excited. He went to every doctor's appointment, helped me set up the nursery, and talked about all the things he wanted to teach our child. By the time our son was born, I knew I'd found my forever person. A year later, Daniel and I got married, and shortly after, we welcomed our daughter. Life has been better than I ever imagined. Daniel is an amazing husband and father, and our family is filled with the kind of love and joy I thought I'd never have. That brings me to last week. I was at the mall with my kids, running errands, when I ran into Greg's parents. It was awkward, but they were polite and even seemed genuinely happy to see me. They complimented my kids, saying how adorable they were, and asked how I was doing. I kept the conversation brief and went on my way, thinking nothing of it. The next day, I received an email from Greg. It said, "My parents saw you at the mall with 2 kids who looked just like me. I want to know who the father is. I expect a DNA test immediately." I was stunned. My kids look nothing like Greg. They're the spitting image of Daniel. But the audacity of him demanding a DNA test left me speechless. I ignored the email, hoping he'd let it go. But a few days later, I received court documents. Greg is suing me to complete a DNA test for my son. I'm furious. Greg divorced me because I couldn't get pregnant, leaving me to feel worthless and broken. Now, years later, when I finally rebuilt my life and found happiness, he's trying to insert himself into it with baseless accusations. David is livid. He's been my rock throughout this ordeal, and he's ready to fight Greg in court if it comes to that. He told me, "That man doesn't deserve a single answer from you. He gave up the right to any part of your life when he walked away." My friends and family are fully on my side, but this situation has stirred up emotions I thought I'd buried. I worked so hard to move past the pain Greg caused, and it feels like he's trying to drag me back into it. Part of me wonders if I should have responded to his initial email to shut this down before it escalated. But I know Greg thrives on control. Engaging him would have only given him more power. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for ignoring my ex-husband's demands for a DNA test and refusing to engage with him after he left me when I couldn't get pregnant? Greg has absolutely no right to demand anything from OP. He walked out on their marriage because he didn't get what he wanted. And now that OP has built a beautiful life for herself, he's trying to drag her back into his mess. He's acting entitled and ridiculous. OP owes him nothing. Not an explanation, not a DNA test, nothing. Good on OP for ignoring him and moving forward with her family. Daniel sounds like an amazing partner and father, and I'm glad OP found someone who truly values her. And now let's hear the community's opinion. Greg's audacity is unreal, not the a-hole. He treated you horribly, left you at your lowest, and now, years later, he's trying to stir up drama over kids who have nothing to do with him. It sounds like he can't handle seeing you happy and thriving without him. Honestly, this lawsuit feels like a desperate attempt to regain control or insert himself into your life. Stay strong, and don't let him manipulate you. I hope the court shuts this nonsense down quickly. Not the a-hole. Greg divorced you because he thought you couldn't have kids. And now that you've moved on and had children with someone else, he's trying to worm his way back into your life? The hypocrisy is staggering. It's not your fault his parents made assumptions based on seeing your kids, and it's certainly not your responsibility to entertain his baseless accusations. He's showing his true colors again, selfish and controlling. You're better off without him, and I hope the court sees through this ridiculous lawsuit. Wow, Greg's behavior is completely unhinged, not the a-hole. He's the one who ended your marriage because he couldn't handle the idea of a life without children. He made it clear back then that his priorities didn't include you as a person, just your ability to have kids. Now that you've moved on and built the life he didn't think you could have, he's trying to drag you down. You've done nothing wrong, and I'm glad you're standing your ground. Daniel sounds like a wonderful husband, and it's clear your family is thriving. Don't let Greg's bitterness ruin that. Update. So, the court ruled that I had to comply with the DNA test, and the results came back last week. To my absolute shock, the test revealed that my son is Greg's biological child. I feel like my entire world has been turned upside down. When Greg and I were still married, things were falling apart in the months leading up to the divorce. One night, during a brief moment of vulnerability, we ended up sleeping together. It wasn't about reconciliation. It was more about clinging to what little we had left before everything fell apart. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Greg had always blamed me for our fertility struggles, and I didn't believe there was any chance I could get pregnant from that one encounter. After we finalized the divorce, I met Daniel and started my life over. When I found out I was pregnant shortly after we got together, I assumed the baby was Daniel's. I had no reason to question it. Daniel was excited, supportive, and fully embraced fatherhood, and I never imagined this situation could unfold the way it has. When I told Daniel about the DNA results, he was devastated. He kept asking me why I hadn't told him about sleeping with Greg before the divorce, and I admitted that I didn't think it was relevant. I truly believed that Greg couldn't have been the father. At first, Daniel tried to be understanding, but as the days passed, his emotions shifted. He became angry and distant, asking how he could trust me moving forward. He said things like, "You should have told me everything from the beginning," And this changes everything. I've tried to reassure him that I was never hiding anything intentionally, but I understand why he feels betrayed. To make things worse, Daniel secretly did a DNA test for our daughter. I didn't even know he had done it until the results came back confirming she is his biological child. While I'm relieved about that, the fact that he felt the need to check has created even more tension between us. Greg, on the other hand, has been insufferable. The moment he received the DNA results, he sent me a smug email saying, "I knew it. You've been lying all along." He's now demanding visitation rights and has hinted at wanting shared custody. The thought of him being involved in my son's life is overwhelming, especially considering how he treated me during our marriage. I feel trapped. I don't want Greg in our lives, but legally, I don't know if I can stop him. At the same time, I feel like I'm losing Daniel. He's withdrawn and barely speaks to me unless it's about the kids. I don't know how to repair the damage this has caused. I've started therapy to process everything, but it feels like my world is crumbling. I never wanted or expected this, and now I'm facing the possibility of losing the life I've worked so hard to build. I, 25 female, graduated 3 years ago. I have 2 brothers, 29 and 30, who also completed college. When I went to college, I went to local school and also had a substantial scholarship. In addition, I lived at home, and my parents didn't charge rent, and I had a part-time job. I got a really good fintech job straight out of school and graduated with no debt. My brothers both went to college out of state, somewhere more prestigious. For my brother's college costs, my grandma contributed about $30,000 per year. She also offered the same to me, but I told her I didn't need it and she should spend it on herself. My parents also helped them a bit, but I'm not sure how much. At college, I was involved in a startup. My partners and I were trying to get some capital together, so I mentioned to my grandma about my business. Mom suggested I do this, and if she wanted to be an investor. Grandma said she would give me $350,000 as the money she had kept for my college is worth that much now. She said it was a gift and declined to be an investor. Specifically, Grandma said that I would be a big success, and she doesn't want to deal with adding my business to her estate. When I told my mom, she said it was unfair that Grandma was giving me 3 times more than my siblings. My brothers have a lot of student debt, and I should help them pay some of it off. I told her that the money would help me develop my business and secure more funding. In the end, she suggested I give my brother shares in the company, equivalent to what I wanted to give Grandma. I told her no, as although my brothers and I have a good relationship, I've spent several years working on my company, and they haven't contributed anything to its growth. Mom reminded me that I wanted to study out of state, but they were the ones that told me that there wasn't significant benefit in going out of state and incurring debt until I wanted to do a master's. Their advice paid off for me, and that's why I got ahead. In fact, that's where I started my work. Now, one of my brothers has said that he will help me work on the company as part of his stake. I told him he doesn't have a stake, and now everyone thinks I'm ungrateful and are hurt by the fact that I won't share what Grandma gave me. They also dragged Grandma into it and are telling her that I should only get half of what she offered. Now I don't know. Perhaps I do need to share with my siblings by adding them to my startup and treating it like a family endeavor, because as a family we have always watched out for each other. So tell me, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your family isn't entitled to anything of yours. Your grandmother saved the $30,000 she was going to give you, and that became $350,000. Your brother and mother seem very entitled. Not the a-hole. Your grandma gave you the money, and the value has increased over the years. Lesson learned. Don't discuss finances with anyone who will share it with others, including family. As far as the stake in your business, this already shows that for you, mixing family and business is a bad idea. Not the a-hole. No, do not do it. This is your business, your vision, your baby. The only thing they are bringing to the table is entitlement. And speaking from experience, this family always looks out for each other is a load of crap when money is involved. If your brothers were looking out for you, they would be telling the rest of the family to mind their own business and let you run yours, not be feeling butthurt that you are not offering them a stake. Just remember one thing about family. They are your best enemies and worst friends. They're adults. They'll find their own way. I married my husband over 2 years ago. I immediately took on a 16-year-old girl, 18-year-old boy, and a 20-year-old boy. I've loved them like my own since day one. My own kids were then a 6-year-old girl and a 10-year-old boy. When my stepdaughter turned 16, her mom, who is married to an actual millionaire, bought her a brand new car. The mom and my husband do not get along. They've been divorced for 15 years, and she is absolutely nuts. Tries to use the kids to hurt him in every possible way, even as adults. She refused to go to the 18-year-old's college graduation if I went. So my husband didn't go, to be loyal to me. Stuff like that she is awful about. Fast forward to now. The stepdaughter is 18 and in college. A year ago, she pissed her mom off, and her mom took her car from her. I went and got her a brand new 2021 car in my name. I've made over $4,000 in payments in a year. Her mom took away her phone because she was also tacky. I gave her my brand new iPhone XR instead of giving it to my now 12-year-old. I pay her phone bill. I took off to move her into college. When she wrecked the car, I paid the deductible and took care of everything. I offered to let her use my car while hers was being repaired because I have a work car. Well, over this holiday break, she started texting her dad saying I make things awkward for her. She says this because I told her not to let our 15-month-old drink from her straw because she was sick. She then told her dad to choose between me or her, that he can just go love me and my kids. I texted her and told her that was not right, that we have done a multitude more for her mentally, emotionally, and physically than we have done for my kids. Now she's saying she doesn't want me in her life at all because I told her not to let my baby drink after her while sick. For a year, I have kept my mouth shut about what I want done with our child because every time I tell her, hey, please don't feed him chocolate at 6 months old, she freaks out and leaves. Then my husband and I have tension. Am I the a-hole for telling her to bring her car and phone back since she doesn't want me in her life? Her dad cannot get the car in his name because he has had to take out so many loans for her for school because her mom refused to let her claim herself on taxes, so she doesn't qualify because of her stepdad's income. Not the a-hole. This sounds awful, and I'm so sorry you do so much, only to get so little respect. Why is your husband then mad at you after she storms out? He is literally the middleman here and should act like one. Stop enabling his daughter and tell her to start respecting you like you do her. I feel like you're bearing the brunt of it all while your husband keeps quiet in order to remain the cool parent. And this is what happens when a child is raised getting everything they want every single time. It's about time she had to suffer some consequences of her behavior. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole for taking the car and phone back, but reread your post. You've prioritized your stepdaughter over your own kids multiple times. I absolutely loathe when moms or dads get married, inherit stepkids, and then bend over backwards for them while forgetting their own kids. I'm not saying that's what you are doing, but this post is giving those vibes. You bought an 18-year-old a brand new car because she did something so crappy to her mom that her other car was taken away. You gave her a brand new phone, again because her mom took hers away. Is this some weird competition with the ex, or are you trying to buy your stepdaughter's affection? Personally, I'd back way off and try to maintain a cordial relationship with her, as that's what she seems to want. Also, you let your husband miss his kid's graduation out of loyalty to you? Yes, the ex was childish and manipulative, but I would have insisted he went and stayed home. But I digress. I, male 39, have 2 daughters with my ex-wife, Jenny, female 39, and we have 50-50 custody, so the kids, Lily, female 16, and Hannah, female 14, live with me half of the time and with their mom the other half. Jenny and I went through a nasty divorce, so we don't talk to each other except once in a great while through text if there's an issue with the girls, but it usually ends up with us arguing in the end. This past weekend, Lily was out with friends and called me around 8 and said her mom asked her to meet up with her and a friend to have pizza and hang out for a bit because the place they were at does trivia on Friday nights. I told her that's fine, but be home by 10. At about 9:45, I called to remind her that she needed to be home by 10. She said their pizza had just gotten to them and she would be home in a few minutes. 10 o'clock hits and she isn't home, so by now I am pretty frustrated and admittedly, I lose my temper a bit. But her mom knows when I say 10, I mean 10, not 10:05, not 10:02. So I called Lily and said, "Where the duck are you at? It's 10 o'clock. I told you to be home." She said our pizza came late and Mom asked if I could drop her and Nikki, Mom's friend, off at home because they had a couple drinks during dinner. I said, "I don't give a duck. You aren't your mom's designated driver. Now get your butt home." Well, unknown to me, her mom and friend were just getting out of the car, and I was on Bluetooth, so they heard me yelling at Lily. I don't really care because they already think I'm an a-hole, but at my house, rules are to be followed. Their mom thinks she can be their friend, but that doesn't fly with me. When Lily got home, 10:12, I took her keys and told her to tell her mom she will have to pick the girls up for their time at her house. Now I'm even more of an a-hole apparently, because she will have to take them back and forth to school instead of them being able to drive. I say that's too bad. She shouldn't have kept my daughter out past when I told her to be home. The agreement was that I would buy Lily a car, and she would buy Hannah a car when she was old enough, so I owned the car. Maybe I shouldn't have yelled at her quite so bad, but what am I supposed to do? Just have no rules and let them do whatever they want? You're the a-hole. 1. Stop swearing at your child. What is wrong with you? 2. Your daughter was not out unsupervised. She was out with her other parent and listening to that parent's instructions. And she was in repeated contact with you providing updates. Your concern here was solely about exerting control, not about your child's safety, decision-making capacity, or well-being. You're the a-hole. Lily was out with her mom on a weekend. A 10 p.m. curfew for a 16-year-old on the weekend is strict as it is. Punishing her for being with her mom is beyond strict. It's spiteful. She was 12 minutes late, not 3 hours late, and again, with her mom. Don't be surprised when her mom buys the girls a new car, and the 50-50 comes to an end, and you are left with minimal or no time with the kids. You're the a-hole. Why are you swearing and screaming at your daughter for being a responsible person? Holy crap, are you teaching your children the wrong lessons? Yes, darling, so see if your food takes too long next time. I want you to just leave and not eat, and leave 2 people stranded, because I personally don't like them. My rules, my house. Way to punish your daughter for 12 minutes, and not disobeying her mom either. You're spiteful. The car was either your gift to her, or it's your car you happen to let her drive. Pick one, so she knows if she needs to be buying her own, so daddy doesn't tantrum take it. I recently turned 18 female, and had to go through the proceedings of obtaining my trust fund. My brother, 19 male, got his a while back, and has gotten his first apartment and a second car. The favoritism is clear as day, with it. I knew what amount he got, as I wanted to make sure I got the same. He even clarified that just before he moved his whole trust fund, father added an additional 8% to it. I got my information in the mail and spoke with the bank. I come to find out that my trust fund is 12% less than my brother's, which is a significant difference. I told my brother about this, and he said that's bizarre, and maybe there was an error on our father's behalf. I go to my father and show him mine versus my brother's. He just says, I added more to your brother's, as he knew what he wanted to do with it, and that you were just going to be irresponsible. Which is incorrect, as I planned what I was going to do with it. And his point doesn't stand, as my brother is more irresponsible. He just does it in a discreet manner and is his golden boy. He said, as it is my senior year, I shouldn't get carried away. I informed him that I wanted to get my apartment at the start of spring. He didn't care. Then I told him that I needed it, and he's still ruining my plans for the summer coming up. He just told me to suck it up and said he was busy now. I went to him later that evening and told him that if he doesn't give me the money he promised me, I won't come to the log home for Christmas. He told me that if I lived under his roof, I didn't have a choice. I proceeded to tell him that I will go move out now so I don't have to come. He gave up and told me that he will add the additional amount if I just give him some peace for the rest of my curriculum year. Yet later that evening, my mother was upset with me and told me that I was causing immense trouble again. After my mother spoke to my dad, he told me that he was thinking about rebuking his word and that I just expect to be given everything. He and my mother are both upset at me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Are you entitled to their money? No. Are they the a-holes for treating you differently and favoring your brother? Yes. I'd break up my contact with them, not because of the money, but because of the favoritism. Everyone sucks here. You are not guaranteed anything from your parents. Would it be nice if they gave you the equal amounts and didn't clearly have a favorite? Yeah, for sure. But at the end of the day, it is their money to use as they see fit. But it's also your prerogative to not go to the family functions if you don't feel like your presence is valued. Although it sounds more like a manipulative tactic to get more money if you'll go if they pay. Not the a-hole. They are being unfair. Favoritism isn't okay. Move out. Leave now. Don't look back. They will probably make moves once you either get engaged or have kids, because they won't want to miss out on their grandkids. But I wouldn't give them the light of day. A 12% difference would be massive for a trust fund if it can afford an apartment and a car. So yeah, that ain't cool. People saying you aren't entitled to the money, they're right. But you are entitled to fairness and family. Favoritism is crap no matter what. So there I am in the labor room with my wife who just pushed out our first baby. Strong little boy. and I began calling my mother to tell her the good news. She didn't pick up. Found out she was in the shower. I then called my in-laws to tell them, and I then messaged my siblings and cousins to spread the good news and get back to baby and mama ASAP. The birth was very difficult, but we made it, and I'm so happy. I noticed my mom hasn't called back or read my messages. Soon after, I get a message from my sister saying I need to speak to my mom as she's really angry at me. I call her back, and she unleashes a barrage of insults and threats to sever relations, and expressing how angry she is for finding out via one of her sisters that we've had the baby. I told her I'm so sorry, and that given the difficulty of the situation, I just wanted to send a mass message to everyone after trying to call her. She wasn't having it, and broke down on the phone saying she shares no happiness in this event, etc. I break down crying, thinking why is this moment completely ruined? My wife was there with the baby crying, and seeing me reduced to tears on my knees wishing Mom would understand I didn't do anything wrong. Siblings are all taking her side, saying I shouldn't have told anyone until Mom picked up or was available to pick up the phone. I tried explaining how difficult the whole process was and how stressful it was, but they were more concerned with how upset Mom was. Am I the a-hole? I'm having serious issues because of this, and I don't know if what I did was wrong. I'm more upset that nobody is trying to understand my circumstances, and I just wanted to spread the news, nothing malicious. Also worth noting, when our father was rushed to the hospital due to a burst ulcer and terminal cancer, nobody told me, and I was told to let go of that anger. Not the a-hole. She's making this about her. You really need to stop some of this contact with your family because it's unhealthy. If you cry because she is angry and you try explaining this isn't your fault, you should not be talking to her too much or at all until you have enough strength. And right now, with a kid, this isn't a priority. Take care of your family, mute or block your mother and siblings, and seek therapy. In a month or two, when things are less overwhelming, try again to talk to them. But remember that your mother will lose her crap because she is this kind of person. Not the a-hole. I think you need to go no contact with them because your side of the family appears to be toxic. You and your wife should be enjoying and being happy about the birth of your first child, not crying over your mother's ridiculousness. Not the a-hole. Your mother is manipulative. The birth of your child is a special moment for your wife and you. You and your wife decide how to share this. That's none of your mother's business. You called her and she didn't answer the phone. Too bad for her.